4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome everyone to the final night of the Diocese of Camden Easter Retreat. And again, as I have said every night this week, it's mixed with a little sadness and joy. It has been a remarkable journey that we have taken together and with all of you. Tonight is going to be a little different. We're going to show you some behind the scenes work, and we're also going to share with you some others, introduce you to other people who have really sort of stepped into the gap while our churches have been closed. And it is a privilege now to turn it over to Mike Walsh, who is normally behind the camera. So Mike.
Hey, what's going on? How are you? I know that whenever Donna starts these episodes, she comes very earnest and spiritual. That's not really going to be what happens tonight. You're going to get a lot of behind the scenes. The opening shot was not an accident, and you did not accidentally hear John do the countdown as we began. We wanted to do that on purpose. If John switches to a live shot right now of our Skycam, you're going to see everything that's currently set up. We have 5 sets of lights. We have 9 people in here all together. How many cameras do we have, John?
4 cell phones and 3 cameras.
Yeah, 4 cell phones
Use
and 3
that
cameras.
microphone.
So we're using something called a Sling Studio, which we might change the camera angle at some point and show you. But we kind of wanted to do this particular episode as our final episode for a very particular reason. What you saw over the last 7 weeks was nothing short of miraculous. No one knew what was going to happen on March 15th when things suddenly started shutting down. We didn't know we were going to be closed out of masses for 7 weeks and counting. We didn't know that most of the parish life was going to shut down. We didn't know that most of the diocesan life was going to shut down. We didn't know that life as we knew it was going to shut down. But a couple of us, mostly from the beginning, from the diocesan level, Donna, John, and I kind of got together and we were like, we got to figure something out. Here's another behind-the-scenes thing. I listen to everything going out, which means I'm hearing everything 30 seconds after it happened. So I'm going to take my earpiece out now because I keep getting lost. There we go. So the 3 of us kind of got together and we were like, we got to figure something out. We can't just stop existing as a church. We knew we were going to have to go to a virtual some sort of a virtual technology. And John and I had used something called a Sling Studio a year earlier when we, just on a whim, decided to live stream the Chrism Mass, which has always been one of my favorite masses to attend. But nobody ever comes to it, but a lot of people don't come to it because it's in the middle of the day. It's right during the beginning of Holy Week. It's usually done at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday in the Diocese of Camden. So we were like, you know what? I'd like to test out this Sling Studio stuff. It ended up working great. We had a great experience with it. And then didn't do anything with that for another year because we decided to focus on our YouTube shows. For those of you who have probably been hopefully watching Talking Catholic, our YouTube channel, you see that we put out a ton of content there. Well, the world shuts down. We realized real quick we better get this Sling Studio gear. The stuff we're using is the last one that was available on Amazon at the time. I literally bought the last one that you could get. And since then, we've now done 45 episodes using it. Actually, that's not true. We've done 44 episodes using it, and one with something we call a Mevo, which is John's favorite piece. Right, John? It's amateur hour?
That is garbage.
Oh, now I'm going to lose out on that Mevo sponsorship. I'll have you know that the Mevo is what we shot Bishop Sullivan and Donna's interview, which was probably one of the best interviews I've ever seen done with Bishop Sullivan. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend you check it out. It's really great. So it's been kind of like this weird experience. We kind of did everything on the fly. So John and I figured out the technological end, but John and I also know that we have one shortcoming, which is we don't know who to actually put on. So we went and grabbed the one person who was smart enough to figure it out, and that's Donna Ottaviano Britt, who likes to start everything with flipping her hair back. So we grabbed Donna and we were like, Donna, we got to figure something out. And within a week, she had put together an entire 3 days of a Lenten retreat. And then we got down to the Lenten retreat and everybody seemed to like it. And we gave ourselves, 4 days to come up with a Diocesan Easter retreat. And we had a Diocesan Easter retreat in almost no time. I mean, Donna, in those, do you remember back a couple of weeks ago what it was like, in that first bit of terror we went through?
It was like terror too, for sure. So Mike had said to me one day, about 10 days out from Holy Week, we're not doing enough as a diocese. We need to do something. And I thought, what does that mean exactly? So as Mike said, we put together the Lenten retreat and thought, okay, we're going to have to do more, because the longer we were into the shutdown, it looked like we would have to do more. So I said, all right, I'll send you a bunch of ideas. And I expected there to be the word or, in between every idea. And really, Mike put an and in between every idea that I had sent him on email. And I said, well, he said, he says, I won't say no to any of this. I said, okay, well, are you going to help me build it? He says, no, you're going to build it, and John and I will live stream it. And that's kind of how we evolved. But here's the thing that I want to say about this whole experience is that who we've all been able to meet and be able to sort of go out and ask people, can you help us do this? Like the people sitting in this room who you're going to talk to in a minute. It's like the people of peace showed up. It's like the Holy Spirit said, here you go. These are the people who will say yes to you. So that was really, I find, one of the most remarkable, amazing, holy experiences of this whole entire period.
And we have a lot of those people, or we have some of those people with us today. We pulled together a small crowd of folks who really did something amazing during the last 7 weeks in one way or another. So we're going to go around the room a little bit. I probably should have mentioned we're in my living room. We've been relying on the kindness of a number of pastors and ministry leaders around the Diocese of Camden to host all of our stuff, usually at the last minute. But they've all been very gracious. But I just didn't have the heart to ask somebody one more time. I have a fairly big living room. I figured let's have everybody come over. So I want to go around this lovely living room of mine and sort of introduce a few folks. So first to my left is Greg Gardner. How you doing, Greg?
Hey, thanks for having me. This is good to be here. Thank you
for coming over. Greg, what is it that you do?
So I'm the choir and band teacher along with my brother, G Minor, over at Camden Catholic High School, yes. And yeah, we're just discovering virtual classes for the first time together and making some videos for our students and finding creative ways to still come together as a group.
Now Greg is being a little modest. Greg probably had the first viral video of the pandemic, at least in the Delaware Valley area. Greg put together, he had, being the music director, he naturally has a choir. And I should probably ask you how did you end up putting this together? What was it that sort of, if you haven't seen it yet, we'll make a link available. John, is the video, or do we download the video to give to people?
I'm normally behind the camera. I have it ready and loaded. I can play it in 30 seconds.
Well, okay, if you guys promise not to stop watching, which you people do every single time we put music on. I'm so sorry for Jeff Shields. Every time we have music, everybody leaves and comes
leave
back.
Jeff Shields alone. He did a great job.
No, Shields does a great job. I want you guys to watch the videos that Shields will send to us the next time. So for the Faith and Family Night, we always had music, and we track who's watching us. We'd always see there was a dip when Jeff's videos came on. I'm like, you're missing great content there. It's great stuff. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to play what Greg was able to produce in the very early stages of the pandemic.
Integrity preserving one fortress and my rock, and he says I
That was great. I want to do that take from the very beginning. Yes, we're having people at my house, so we're making sure that none of us get infected by having a little bit of alcohol. That was one of the best parts. If there can be a silver lining of a pandemic, that may have been it. Because not only is that video great, that video, through somewhat miraculous measures, and I suspect it's from their very good marketing person at Camden Catholic High School, was shared with a lot of news media who then did a lot of stories about it. So, first of all, congratulations for being the first viral video in South Jersey 7 weeks ago. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Oh, man. It's really cool. Yeah. And John, during the break, asked you how you sort of created that. So, give us an idea of what it took to put that together.
Yeah,
and
so
why you did it.
Absolutely. So we jumped in. We had a professional day on Monday going over some of the new technologies that we had, and people were kind of asking, like, what are you going to do with the performing arts classes? And that video, I Am With You Always, or that song rather, was a hymn at the closing of Mass that the students all really knew and connected with throughout the year. So the idea to keep that going was what we thought was a creative way to keep everybody together and bring them together, especially in the wake of not being together during the senior trip and not being together for the second weekend of our spring musical. So we posted this on, I think, Tuesday of the first week of the pandemic, or the closure of schools, and everybody sent in individual videos on Google Drive, and then later we spliced it all together because with some of these live apps, there's a little bit of a delay. So we had to take all the videos, the students did it in their bedrooms, they just used iPhones or whatever cell phone they had. They listened to a track so that everybody would be singing in the same time. And then they sent it to me and my brother, and we spliced it together and made the little square boxes to put the choir all on one page. And then we released it. And yeah, Kate Bigg, our marketing person, really did a wonderful job of making sure people would see it. And we really didn't expect that to happen at all. It was just for our morning TV show and a treat for the kids to come together. But it really took off, and that was really special. That was really neat. Not expected at all.
No, I got to tell you, obviously the Catholic Star Herald wrote a story about it, and we certainly shared a lot of it. But seeing something take off like that, which since then we've actually seen it done by a number of other schools, but you had the benefit of being first, and that is usually how things go viral is doing it first. So Greg's here because of that, and I'm just curious. We talked a little bit. We've had some conversations on our Talking Catholic podcast with some educators about what it's been like during these past 2 months. I'm curious for you, beyond the one video, and I know you've done more since then. How has it been for you as a teacher?
Yeah, so I'm grateful actually in some ways that it happened as early as it did because it was really exciting at first, I think, in a lot of ways with some of these videos. And since then, we've tried to capture some of the highlights of the year. So we have this big courtyard cabaret in May at springtime, and we were able to capture that virtually and do some other events. But I think one of the things that I'm grateful for with a little bit of fatigue in the year is we're really, I think, recognizing how much we miss each other, how much we really long to be together. While these virtual things are a way for us to connect and kind of get over that hump together, I think, yeah, at this point in the year, what's interesting about it all is how much we miss that community that Camden Catholic offers, and I'm sure other students can connect with their Catholic schools in the same way. People are really missing spending time together. So that's probably the biggest takeaway, the biggest hurdle. But a lot of the stuff has been asynchronous, and teachers are still doing a really good job of posting, and students are doing a really good job of staying engaged for over 2 months now. So this is definitely the home stretch. We've got 2 more weeks left. But yeah, I've just been blown away by our students. They're so resilient. This class especially, is making history with how resilient they are in the face of this challenge. So we're just looking forward to that time when we're back together again. Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. And we'll come back to you in a little bit. So I want to also point out, we're doing this very behind the scenes. So, John always works. John's on the front end, right? So he's taking care of all he's taking care of all the cameras, all the lights. John works for me. He's the digital media manager for the Diocese of Camden. However, once we start this process every night, I then work for him. And I'm his little PA, and he runs me around. When he's not running me around, I'm on the back end making sure that the streams are going out where we need them to go. I'm monitoring the comments that are coming in, making sure the shares are up. I actually have to give a lot of thanks to Maria D'Antonio, who's in my office. She makes sure all the shares are on. She makes sure she watches every broadcast and lets me know when the sound is off, because every time we do this, there's like slight sound changes. So she's always the one to make sure. If you ever go, hey, it doesn't quite sound right, and you realize 30 seconds later the sound's been boosted, that's because Maria took care of you. So she deserves a big credit.
But outside of the live streams, she really is the unsung hero of the communications part.
Oh,
she does absolutely everything, and she didn't pay me to say it.
Yay, Maria.
All true. So the reason I'm bring up the social media, however, is that all of us besides Greg, who doesn't have social media, are actually going to be on our phones right now. So we're actually going to be watching the comments that are coming in. Feel free to comment at any time on anything, or ask us questions if you have any curiosity about how we got all this stuff together or why we're all insane enough to do it. Feel free to ask those questions. Donna's going to keep an eye on all of them. Usually I would be doing that, but I'm sort of co-hosting this one, so I'll probably be checking things out not quite as often. Also, I'm drinking, so who knows? So I want to bring on our second guest. Our second guest is Carrie Janice, and if there's anyone who runs my life slightly less than Donna, it's probably Carrie. Carrie's one of the co-hosts for the Talking Catholic podcast, plus she has her own show on Talking Catholic YouTube called Youth Ministry Insights. Plus, she runs like 5 or 12 different youth ministry organizations at her parish. So she is ever present. So, Carrie, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me here tonight and that nice little intro. It's good to be here. And as you know, I ran Faith and Family Nights, and before that, Donna and Mike wrote me in to also do the Lenten retreat. So I was a part of that as well, which was really fun. So yeah, I don't know. What else you want me to talk about?
I'm kind of curious, what it was. So you were one of the first people we contacted when everything went down. And I'm curious, not only what you did for us, but what was it like in your parish when everything kind of shut down at once? Like because you jumped into action very quickly as well.
Yeah, so I was a graphic design major, but I love anything to do with communications and that respect. And of course, I work in youth ministry now. I don't do any graphic design work full time, but anything that has to do with communications, I'm all for. Which is why you see me on the podcast, or hear me on the podcast, see me on Youth Ministry Insights, doing different things like that. Because I'm all for anything communicating, anything reaching out. And what I always say, if it's going to evangelize to somebody, let's do it. And so I saw that need as soon as Mass shut down. I said we need to be able to get the Mass to people and be able to let people see what's going on in the church. And so I knew I had an iPhone 11 Pro. I'm in charge of the parish Facebook, so I knew I had the capabilities to easily live stream masses and other things from our parish, like pastors' videos and things. So I jumped right on it. The very first time Sunday rolled around, we couldn't have Mass. I went to Father Maz's chapel, and we shot it right there. It was very, very, very horribly done. I held the phone in my hand.
Don't call it horribly done. It was rudimentary. That's all.
I don't have those big, fancy 50-cent words that you have, Mike, so thank you for giving me one. So, yes, it was rudimentary. But basically, I didn't know how to flip the camera right, because it was actually my first time doing a live video. I've never done it before. So I'm like flipping the camera. Father Maz is moving all back and forth. The camera was shaky. We since then have really perfected it in our parish with nice tripods, and we even made a fancy starting soon sign. So we put that out on a little music stand, and then we move it after Mass starts so that we don't have the fancy stuff that John has on his little app over there that he's using, Sling or whatever. We just have our little printed out sign that says Mass is starting soon. And we got right on the live stream Masses. So we have Masses from our parish. I'm the person behind the camera there. So I'm actually in Mike and John's role at my parish. And then for the diocese, I've gotten to be in front of the camera and be able to be bringing great retreats and things to you guys. Hopefully you've watched Faith and Family Night on Tuesdays.
I'm curious, just talking about Faith and Family Night just a little bit, is you and Father Nevitt, primarily over the last couple of weeks, and some of your co-hosts beforehand. I was impressed actually with the amount of effort and work you put into it. And by effort and work, I mean the effort and work you made John do as part, because yours was the most graphic, intense. You had games.
Yes, we had a lot.
Like, what was sort of like your psychology of coming up with that Faith and Family Night?
I didn't think people wanted to hear me talk for an hour, so I figured let's let's break it up a little bit. That was it, yeah. And there's a lot of really great talent across the diocese, so I did invite Jeffrey Shields, who's a beautiful musician, to come in. He's a fellow youth minister of mine. So I thought, let's give them some music. Let's also make it fun, geared towards families. So a family game would be fun. And I knew it could be done without the graphics, but at the beginning I thought if we can make some graphics on there, again, coming from my art background, let's jazz it up a little bit. John did a phenomenal job with that, so thank you, John. I don't compliment you too often, but I will compliment you on the live stream tonight. John and I go way, way back. Since you were at Holy Family Parish years ago, and we met there, and I've known him ever since. He's a great guy, and it's been great to work with him on these. And it just was fun to be able to kind of have different components to the evening, that some were every week, like the games and the challenges, and then different hosts, different people that were part of it, just giving talks, like Rebecca Hardy and Kim Pizotsky came on and gave wonderful talks of the faith. It was nice to mix it up each week, so you didn't know exactly what it was going to be all about every week, not the same thing. And additionally, it was really fun, I thought, to have on some of my youth group members, which was last week, for the highlights of the graduating class of 2020. That was probably the most memorable moment of the last 7 weeks that I did live streams with you guys.
Yeah, that was, I got to tell you, Carrie, you, much like us, you really threw yourself into this, and I think you deserve a lot of credit for
Thank you, Mike.
for willing being, and you are an example. The reason we invited you on specifically is because you're an example of all the other people in the parishes who have done the exact same thing, who figured out a way of making these things happen. I think before this started, I want to say there were 3 parishes that did live streaming on a regular basis.
Wow.
There are now over 30 in the case.
That's
in
awesome.
less than, I would say in less than the first month, we had 30 on. And we're still getting, bit by bit, we have more parishes coming online, doing virtual masses and things
that's
like
great.
that. And, I guess one thing that's important to know, we hate that, by the way. We, at the diocesan level and the parish level, I mean, we love, John and I do all of the bishops' Sunday masses. Okay. John and I do all the bishops. Oh, sure. We do it to her off camera, but me on camera. We do all the bishops off Sunday masses, and I was being all sincere too. And we hate it. We hate the fact that we have to do that because we want to be at masses too. Bishop wants to be at masses. Father Hughes, the Vicar General, wants to be at masses. All of us want to be at masses with the public again. But Bishop Sullivan, he's got a column coming out tomorrow where he'll talk about the fact that he understands it is his role as a shepherd to protect the flock. Above all else, we can't be pro-life if we're not out there protecting the flock, and that's the reason we're doing this. We don't want to do it. We feel like we have to do it, and therefore we are going to continue to do it until such time we can't. But we can't wait until we don't. Because for one thing, John and I, our wives, would occasionally like us home, even on a Sunday. So we can't wait to be back there. So don't worry. At some point it will happen. Just please be patient because we can't wait for it to happen too. Speaking of masses, now we're going to get out of the diocesan sphere and we're going to go to the parish level, and actually sort of the outside the parish level. I was watching my Facebook one night, and up pops a couple of priests that I know. Now, these priests are, let's call them unique. Let's say that they're unique priests. But super spiritual, super joyful, nerdy, very nerdy. And we happen to have both of them here tonight. They're each a pastor of a different parish, but collectively, they now have their own show, Facebook show called Capes and Collars, trademark Mike Walsh, that they've now been doing for several weeks. And I got to be honest with you, I thought it was the dumbest idea when I saw them doing it, and yet I've now had 2 dinners at my dining room table watching these guys talk for 90 minutes while we're eating dinner. It's better than watching Jeopardy. And I know that's high praise. So with us today, we have Father Michael Goyette and Father Robert Sinatra. Good to see you guys. How are you?
Good to see you too, Mike. Thanks for having us.
The co-host of Capes and Collars, as well as the pastor of Our Lady of the Lakes in Collins Lakes, New Jersey, Father Michael Goyette, and Padre Pio Parish in Vineland, Father Robert Sinatra. So nice, guys.
And the diocesan shrine to St. Pio Pietrelcina.
Which I can't say in Italian, so I was going to leave it up to you. But thanks for joining us, guys. I'm very excited that you were here. You're both former priests at our local parish here in Glassboro. But more importantly, the 2 of you threw yourselves into this virtual space and have been quite successful at it. I'm curious. I guess I'll ask Father Sinatra first because you seem to have the most shows on Facebook. Like how long did it take you to make that decision to get online?
The memo came out on Monday, and we were online on Wednesday. Right after the last public mass we had was Tuesday of that week in March. We were online on Wednesday. because I knew that, like, I had streamed my homilies there for a bit. I'd gotten away from it for lots of different reasons. But I realized that, like, my responsibility was still to feed the flock, and the best way of doing that was to live stream the Mass as best I could. So we started off using cell phones. We started using our cell phones. I got my associate, Father Al, on Facebook. He's there on secret, though, so you can't friend him. But we decided that we needed to do this in order to keep it up. Then one of my friends said, Father, I'm a third order Franciscan. When are you going to start doing morning prayer and evening prayer? I'm like, well, I guess we'll start on Friday. So by Friday, we're doing morning prayer and evening prayer. And then we just decided, because we had an adoration chapel and we were starting to do adoration from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that we would have a holy hour every day. So that first, 2 weeks in March, we started to stream Mass, and then we had morning prayer and evening prayer, and then a holy hour. And then I decided, well, we really need to spruce stuff up. Like, we need to get people to get to know the priests. So I interviewed Father Al, found out that his vocation to the priesthood started with him wanting to ride a motorcycle. That's a great story. If you haven't seen it, go take a look at our Facebook page, and you'll get a chance to see that. I was blessed. We have our local homegrown seminarian, Stephen Bertnazzi, and so I decided to interview him. So Father Goyette and I are classmates, and then he's like, yo, Sinatra, you want to talk about, movies or something? So I'm like, okay, so we'll come on. We talked about movies and stuff. And then we just thought about, Friday nights being just an opportunity for us, for the time being, to do stuff. And it was the proto Capes and Collars before Mike Walsh gave us the name.
So, Father Goyette, you very similarly and very quickly got online as well. And you have a smaller parish. It's one of my favorites. The smallest parish in the diocese, but one of my favorites. It's very, very salt of the earth kind of parish, and great parishioners there. But you very quickly went, whereas Father Sinatra, I think, in my own mind, I got the impression he kind of saw it as I don't want to call it secular, but I would call it spirituality through a secular window. You went very spiritual very quickly, and did you start with rosaries first?
Well, we didn't originally. Actually, I did nothing the first couple days, because my initial instinct, which was wrong, was that people would rather watch some, Father Mike Schmidt or somebody else who's more, much better preacher, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I quickly figured out that wasn't the case, just because of what some parishioners said. And so then I started to do it by Friday. He was on live on Wednesday, and then on Friday I started to do it. I actually wanted to do it on YouTube. But in order to stream on YouTube, you need 1,000 followers.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
But I only got 760. So that didn't work.
For your tiny little parish, you got 760. That's amazing.
In 48 hours.
Yeah.
But anyway, that kind of started the roll. And then I did the Mass the first day. But then I said, what it was I have to say this, but Father Sinatra do something. I'm like, so he was doing evening prayer, and I'm like, morning prayer. So I decided to go with Rosary at 3, and then eventually I added stations at 7, because we were doing stations at the beginning of. So that way, pretty much most nights I'm on in the morning, afternoon, and evening, which gives my parishioners. I realized what people actually wanted is a lot of people wanted to connect with their priest, with their parish, and so that's why, for example, I actually like moving the camera back a little bit so the parishioners can see the church. Like at Easter time, I had the camera back even farther so they could see the flowers and stuff like that. That way they can kind of connect. And so really filling that need for the people to be connected to their church and just doing it. And since I wasn't going anywhere in the daytime anyway.
And your parishioners, you did something very early on that John and I, when we first started broadcasting, we didn't realize to do, which was you gotta start a little early so people can kind of build up, and then you start it. Father Goyette, you are famous for this because sometimes you'll wait 5, 10, 30 minutes before your live stream starts. You become
Well,
infamous.
the thing is, I wanted the people in my parish to feel like they were actually there. And if I started on time, they'd be like, "This is not Father Goyette. What did you do with Father Goyette? Who's this? You kidnapped him and you put somebody else in that looks like him, but it's not because he's not starting on time."
Well, I got to tell you, that's become famous, infamous, I guess, but famous. And I love it, actually. And so Capes and Collars starts just with you two chatting at the very beginning and then becomes Capes and Collars. But I really like the way you've set it up. Actually, and I have two questions. One a technical question, one a philosophical question. The technical question is, what app do you use to actually stream that? Because you're not doing it through Facebook natively. You're doing it through something else, right?
Yeah, we're using something called StreamYard.
Okay.
What had happened was that we have someone who we went to seminary with from the Diocese of Lincoln who was using that and had invited me on a Sunday YouTube streaming. He is the nerd father, Father Christopher Miller. And it was a really great thing. And he brought us on using StreamYard. I'm like, this is super easy to use. So that's what we started with. We started using StreamYard between the two of us.
And Donna, if you're wondering, I've already downloaded the app, and we now have it. I have an account with it. So anytime we want to do virtual conversations, we can now do it via StreamYard.
Okay.
So
Great.
an idea for June and into the future. So then my philosophical question. My philosophical question is, I really like the way you've broken up your Friday night broadcast, which is very spiritual in the first 30 minutes. Usually, I think the last Friday you did stations. The next 30 minutes is some spiritual Q&A. And then the third is sort of your nerd chat, which is when I perk up. I'm going to go down a side path. So I'm curious, how did you come up with that sort of agenda?
Well, originally the idea was, well, in the back of my head, there's kind of like, all right, we could just do the funny nerd chat the whole time, but at the same time, we want to make sure we're feeding them spiritually. So that's when and it was during Lent, so I figured let's start out with stations, but then at the same time, we let everybody know that we're starting out with stations. So if that's not your thing, you want to tune in at 7:30. But that gave an opportunity. So we always, that way it's kind of like it's there if you want to join in, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. But it gives a spiritual component to it. And a lot of people do turn in at the beginning. It kind of peaks more about an hour into it. So that was that idea.
The funny thing is that I didn't realize we were praying the stations. He goes, "Yo, Sinatra, we're gonna pray stations." I'm like, "All right, okay." So I'm like, "Do you have them?" Like, I think I have one year.
Is it stations every Friday?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought it was. Oh, okay.
I'm not very creative when it comes to
Stations
prayer,
on
so
Friday night is outstanding.
repetitive.
But it worked out, and then we kind of got into it like it was almost like a happy holy accident that we got into a rhythm of it, because the first time our topic just kind of our first topic was purgatory, and there were so many questions about it, and it just kind of went out of control a little bit, and in a good sense, And then, like we at that point we formulated, we really have to have a good balance, because we want to talk about like just that priests are people too. We're more than just people that you see on Sundays and at Mass or for sacraments or whatever. So it ended up being Stations of the Cross, 30 minutes or so, or usually about 40, about the spiritual topic. And then the rest is just about whatever it is. And actually the alliteration came by accident. That Capes and Collars was our name because we were asking for it, and Mike gave it to us, and I thought it was great. And then our first real topic that we did was by accident Purgatory and Pets, and then Mary and Meatballs, and then what was last week's? I can't remember last week's.
Oh, last week was movies, right? It was
morals and movies.
Right.
Morals and movies. So this Friday's topic is openings and online gaming.
Wow. can't imagine what openings would be. But
Of
can't wait to find out.
churches.
Oh, openings
Of
of churches.
churches.
Oh, opening the church. Hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves. All right?
Well,
No. We have a friend. We have a guest. We have a
Okay.
guest that's coming.
We have a guest who their diocese opened up because of their different situation.
Oh,
So
right.
just what that kind of looked like for all the parishioners to come back.
Yeah. Well, I'll be very interested to now that I know you have a guest on. Weird, I haven't been invited to guest on that show. I named it, and I haven't been invited to guest on it. I comment on it constantly. I haven't been.
Well, we
once
didn't want to
invited.
take you away from your family too
I
much.
invited them onto my show, but anyway. Thank you very much, guys, and we will come back to you in a bit. Actually, wait. Before I leave you, now I'll come back to you in a bit. So we're going to skip over the big red chair, and now we're going to talk to two people you've seen on one of our shows earlier, and I kind of feel bad. So we have this big wide shot. Well, they're not in the wide shot, and I feel bad because I couldn't get the camera quite far enough back into the corner to catch their couch. But we have Star Martinez and Jose Rodriguez, what episode did they have, Donna? They had Young Church, right? Young Church. They did our Young Church episode, but what I've really liked about what Jose and Star have been doing is actually their social media work. Aside from being the most adorable couple you've ever met in your entire life. They do these outtakes videos, which are hysterical, mostly making fun of Jose, which is nice job. Star is the editor, and she's an outstanding editor. But it's been great. So I'm curious, how has sort of this... You two, I think, more than anybody else that I've talked to, have mentioned how sad you are that you're outside of churches. I mean, I think you guys are truly affected by it, and it makes me feel terrible. If I felt, it would make me feel terrible. How have you sort of found virtual salvation in social media and what you've been doing online?
I think what's helped us is that we've been able to stay connected with a lot of the members in our young adult group. So we've been doing Zoom, we text each other all the time, we say we miss you, we love you, and we just ask each other how we're doing, and we just stay connected. And I think that's the most important part. Apart from being away from our parishes and our communities, we are still staying connected with our friends, and in some sort of way, we're staying connected. So I think that kind of helps the situation, I think, right?
No, yeah, definitely. It's been tough, and I don't think it hasn't gotten easier. So as time passes, it's been a little bit more, kind of like that distance, the actual physical distance of not being with our friends and that family that we have. Has been tough, but it's opened the doors to a lot of new things, and it's given us the opportunity to really look at social media and really look at Facebook and Zoom and the things that we can do and the way that we can reach out to our young adults. So we've been connected that way, and it's been good.
And if you let me do a little shout out to Catholic Millennial Ministry. I was going to tongue twist.
I mean, if you're going to say it
Catholic
right,
Millennial
at least.
Ministry. I miss you guys, and we love you, and we just, we can't
Actually,
wait to get
I
together
should apologize because I didn't properly introduce either of you.
No,
I
it's
just,
fine.
I just
It's
really
nothing
talked
new.
about
It's
your
fine. It's okay.
adorableness. So Star is one of the ministry leaders at Vineland's Catholic Millennial Ministry, and Jose. Let's just say he's in charge of youth and young adult for the diocese. Was that the best way to put it?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Sure.
I also want to apologize for the fact that we apparently decided to sort of put the weakest light on the two of you, so you're looking particularly in shadow. But in some ways, it just adds to your adorableness. So
It's okay, Mike. We get it. It's fine. We're not,
We're newbies.
I
we
gave you
didn't
the
have a viral video go on. We're not Carrie. We're not, we don't have collars. We're not. I mean,
I just want to point out.
Donna. We're not Donna. So
Flip.
I get it.
I did
Just
however,
starred
give you-
Jose.
I gave you the comfortablest chair, all right?
The
I got you that one.
comfortablest
The
chair.
comfortablest chair. That's right. I write for a living. But I mean, Star, one of the things that's really impressed me is how quickly you took to creating these videos, and your editing skills are outstanding, actually.
No, they're not.
Oh my gosh.
No, they really are, because it's the only time
zoom
Jose
ins,
has
the
looked
zoom ins.
human, and B,
Yes.
you know, someone you felt like you could be responsive to. So I'm curious,
Okay.
you know, what do you use to edit these videos together?
So I use my Mac and I use the iMovie, and then I just chop it up and I put some sounds in there, some sound effects, some crickets, some music, some real like goofy music. I zoom in every now and then to like really awkward, you know, things that he does, and it makes it funny, but like it makes you
they're
want to watch
hysterical.
it. So
Because I saw Jose's, when he would do his
When he
own
was like-
videos, they were terrible. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I can't stress this enough. Jose's videos were terrible. But ever since Star started editing them, they're A, hysterical, and B, she knows how to run the gamut between, okay, here's the funny bits, but now here's the important stuff where we need it to be spiritual and solemn, and she lets it play in the right way. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Star, you have no editing background at all.
that is correct.
What was it that you, like, did you see other people's videos that you wanted to emulate?
No,
You're just a savant?
it was just like
Editing
a
savant?
random thing, and he pressured me, so I was like, okay.
I think it plays to the fact like
Careful.
no. I think she knows me better than I know myself at this point. So, you know what I mean? We've been in each other's lives for so long.
You started dating at
Like-
what age?
We were junior year in high school, or the summer of sophomore year.
Yeah.
So
It's a long time.
Wow.
So like she gets me. So she like, I every time I do a video, like if I'm in the office or if I'm alone, I try to, you know, all right, Jose, you're doing a video for work. You gotta be serious and do your video. But Star's like, no, you just be you. Just
And
do
then
your.
Mike hyped you up as well, so it was
No,
like a tag team.
Mike do not.
you know.
Mike has never hyped me up.
He
It's just been
did.
strong criticism
He
since
said,
the
"Listen to
beginning.
Star."
That's how I hype people up.
Okay.
But that's the
Listen
truth.
to Stars, not a hype up. That's
It is.
Oh, yes, it is.
we're
For you, it is.
connected,
I've told you before. Hold on to her like grim death.
That's romantic.
I'm all about the romance. But I mean, the thing is, you know, for all of you, we kind of created this episode for content creators. I mean, it's really. I hope everyone who's really been enjoying the episodes for their spiritual aspect have really appreciated them. Like I said at the beginning, this ain't it. This is really to give you an idea of what it takes to create this kind of stuff that people will be interested in. And, you know, I sort of jokingly, not really jokingly, it's true. I criticized Jose's stuff a lot because in the beginning it was terrible. But ever since Star got into the picture, the stuff it's really relatable. And particularly when you're working with youth and young adults, and I think Carrie can agree to this, and I'll ask you this as well. Making these things authentic and relatable are incredibly important. I mean, you've done a lot of online stuff, Carrie. Would you say that that's maybe the most important thing?
Oh yeah, definitely. Relating to the youth is the most important thing. If you're not relating to them, they're going to tune you right out, and anything you create is for nothing. You've just wasted your time pretty much after that.
Much like this episode.
Yes, exactly. You're all wasting your time, everybody. Just keep wasting it. It's okay. We're enjoying letting you watch us waste your time.
Oh, that was harsh.
I'm just
nice.
kidding. It's just
People
Mike.
say
I
I'm
have
mean.
it.
Wow. All right.
All right, this is my real side. No, I'm just kidding. This is
But it's true, and this is
Yeah.
something we found out. And you know, there's this philosophy that there's some magic bullet with young people, and there's some truth to that. Ever since the pandemic sort of really hit South Jersey, we have seen our social media numbers skyrocket. I mean, skyrocket. But none of those numbers were from youth and young adult. They were actually from everybody 65 and above. Thanks for following us, by the way. But I'm not kidding. I'm not even talking. And we're talking about. I mean, we've doubled our followers, and from that doubled, I'd say 95% of them were 55 and above individuals, which is great. Number one, I've never believed for a second when people would tell you, "Oh, don't worry about social media stuff because older Americans aren't on social media." That is a lie. They are on social media, particularly the ones that are particularly invested and engaged. Those are the ones who gravitated to social media so fast. Not my parents, which is kind of sad, but I did get them to watch a YouTube video recently, and that made me happy. But for those of you who are still trying to figure out how to get to the youth and young adults, I'll be honest with you. Carrie, would you say you've had incredible success in bringing people in, or has it been a struggle?
For social media?
Yeah.
I
Bringing young people into your ministries through social media.
Yeah, definitely have had success that way. It's really going where they are. So I don't think you're going to find them on Facebook. You're going to find them on Instagram. You're going to find them on TikTok, which we've been doing a little bit more of that with our youth ministry. And also YouTube, you'll find them on as well. But really, maybe part of it is just that they're just not on Facebook. So going where they're at, and I think that's really important that we are meeting them where they're at. So I'm always trying to look for new ways to do that. I've bumped up my Instagram story game, like been putting tons of stuff on there because I find that they read that or look at that more than they look at the feed. So really just knowing where they're at and then putting content that's going to be appealing to them too, because you want to make sure that you're going to grasp them that way. So it's really just, it's almost, I don't want to say a game, but it's really just knowing what's going to reach them best and then utilizing that.
Yeah, I'm curious, Greg, as a teacher, now you've had the benefit of, your young people are forced to listen to you. But now that they've been sort of separated from you for 2 months, have you found it difficult, challenging? Has it been successful maybe for you to engage with your students virtually?
Yeah, it's definitely not our ideal. Like we were saying before, we just really miss being together. And some of these Zoom meetings, which is different than kind of the asynchronous stuff, which is not live, are just to catch up and to share some of that community time and just to see how everybody's doing and more of a check-in. But then the virtual things are really just to capture, the fact that we're able to still keep going until we're back together again. We have one video, Until We Sing Again. And I think the students are excited by these end results. We've tried to capture each program. So we have a virtual band, we have our virtual a cappella group, we have our virtual choir, we've got our virtual cabaret, we've got our virtual instrument recital, our virtual collaborate where students had to splice a video with somebody else. We've had our student host and try to capture things that they're excited about throughout the year, so our student MCs, and we even have some silly videos of us pretending to grill hot dogs before the concerts. So we try to capture those things that are so enjoyable live until we're back together again. So it's definitely a different model than trying to really blast out our videos. It's more just to push us all together again until we're together again, and that's really what we're looking forward to.
Yeah. And, in that vein, Star, you kind of made a special shout out to the Catholic Millennial Ministry in Vineland. Have you had success engaging with your young adults?
Yeah, definitely. I think the most important part is just to make yourself available, make yourself just there for them, and just stay in contact. I think it's that staying in contact is so important because you maintain that relationship with each other, and when you get back and, when everything starts getting back to normal, it's just like seeing your family all over again, and it's just like going back into it. So I think that's just the main important part. It's just being there for each other and, just being present.
Thank you, Star.
You're welcome.
Jose, if only you could be so eloquent. That'd be nice. Maybe she could edit you with
It would
some
be
eloquence.
boring if we were both that
Perfect.
way.
That's true.
Yeah.
So John, I got a question for you. So we've heard sort of like a lot of examples of what people have been doing in their time. You and I have been very busy, and we've been creating a lot of, I would say, high quality content. For the people at home, how much would you say is the setup we've been using? If you had to do some quick math in your mind, how much does this cost?
All this cost? We are probably, including their cell phones, we're probably around 45 to 50 grand.
Yeah. So if you've been wondering, how come the diocese stuff looks so great and my parish's stuff is kind of rudimentary, as I said earlier, there's a big difference in quality. Now, John and I own most of this stuff that you see. John is using 2 of his cameras. We're using a diocesan camera that's actually been loaned to us by the Catholic Star Herald. He's got his cell phone. I've got one of my old cell phones. We stole Greg Gardner's cell phone. We have my son's cell phone working. Half the lights you see in here are mine that I bought probably 10 years ago. The other half are John's. My tripod, his tripod, and my old tripod, and then a couple of ratty tripods that we bought. About how much the mics, since we have so many people today, we are actually using some mics that are diocesan mics for a meeting space that we have. That was what, 10 grand?
Yeah, so Donna and Star are using my lav mics, which Bishop wears during Mass. Me, you, and Jose are using your mics, and then the two priests and Greg and Carrie are using the Shores, and they are the microphones and the whole system, which is right next to me if you see my arm constantly moving, that we use for any kind of diocesan press conferences, because it also comes with a mult box so that the media can pull live clean feeds.
Yeah, and then the Sling Studio I bought in March, and that was $2,500. The Sling Studio is great. The Sling Studio is this. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna steal Greg's camera. Here, hold on. Let me do this. Sorry, Greg, I'm ruining your shot for the rest of the night. So this is the Sling Studio that we use. It's this tiny little white hub. And it's a great piece of technology. It's basically a Wi-Fi hub that connects to another Wi-Fi hub. Behind it right here, this is our mixer where all of our sound comes through. But the Wi-Fi hub connects to these Sling Studio pieces that go on to our digital SLRs, as you can see Donna on her cell phone right now. And then, so we have 3 of these digital boxes that connect to our cameras, and then the cell phones, so long as you're using iOS 13 and above, and iPhone parlance, those will connect to the hub as well wirelessly. So they've been a great thing to have, but it is a little expensive, but it's worth the effort. Now, to go back onto my camera, as I go back to this camera, Laura Montgomery, I did see your comment, and yes, everything I purchased was in budget. We purchased these over 3 years, but I got news for you. I haven't seen my budget yet, but assuming it comes in with what I requested, we'll be buying a number of new pieces of equipment very soon. John and I want to get some new lenses. 2 of our tripods are quite literally falling apart. John is currently using his wife's iPad to run this system. I think she might like it back at some point, so I think we're going to buy a replacement iPad for it.
And Laura, I'm going to switch this shot over to Star and Jose. If I had better lights, people would be able to see them. But look at them. Nothing but shadow.
Not for nothing, Laura. I mean, lights would be nice. I drove all the way here, and
actually, we might need a makeup budget too, because we got to do something with Jose's 5 o'clock shadow.
For me? Wow.
So, hey, Laura says we'll talk. So that's good to hear.
Thank you.
And yes, I did put in for more gear this year. And the truth of the matter is, we actually put in that gear before the pandemic was hitting, because we knew there were more things we wanted to do. John and I, a year ago, had this conversation, live stream versus YouTube, and we made the decision to go with this YouTube idea, thinking that, and at the time, I think it was the right decision, that most people were more interested, and certainly John and I are in this category, where we go on YouTube to find information packets, learning things. Everything John has figured out how to do, I'm pretty sure he's learned on YouTube, and learned it very quickly and very well. Whereas the live stream really has the benefit of bringing the audience into this. So the best part of live stream for us is the comments section. So we like it when you guys ask us questions. Sometimes you don't ask us enough questions, and we make some questions up. Donna and I have gotten pretty good at that. Hey, listen, man, we're all about, this is behind the scenes, so we're going to tell you how it is.
Shh, don't tell
Sometimes you ask us really dumb questions, and we don't use those. And then sometimes you ask us questions that there was no way we were going to ask.
That's the way to invite people.
I'm waiting for the numbers to drop.
We obviously missed that YouTube episode.
So, well, that's the thing behind the scenes. I want to be honest with you guys. Sometimes questions were asked that weren't appropriate for the episode, so we decided not to use that question. And then other times there were some hard-hitting questions that we thought were great. And then there were some questions that I wanted to know the answer to, and our host decided to punt on. And I'm still annoyed about the favorite. We had the favorite, who gave the best homilies in the diocese. I was actually kind of curious, not because I wanted to rank them, though I did. But seriously, because I want to know who has great ones. I've often said that Father Jim Bartolome is probably one of the best homilists in the diocese, but I like academic things.
No, I got to interrupt there.
Okay.
The best, and not just because he's our boss, is Father Robert Hughes. What I love about him is he'll talk like he's talking, but when he wants to make a point, he drops his voice very low so everybody's forced to hear. And then you know when to stop listening, because then he goes back to his normal voice.
Yeah.
We're gonna miss you, John.
So these are tricks of the trade you learn when you're on the other side just watching people for an hour a night. Now I'm curious, Donna, as we've gone through this process, we're going to start getting to the wrap-up point in this, although I have a couple of questions left for other people. But from your perspective, 45 episodes later, I think 23 episodes of the retreat, what are some of your positive memories? And don't be all sweet about it. I mean, what were, actual things you enjoyed?
I won't.
Okay,
I won't,
thank
trust
you.
me.
I hate it when you're sweet.
I don't really have it in me to be that sweet, but I think first I was scared when we started. I was scared. I'd never gone live before. So one of the things that actually happened on one of the episodes, and I think it might have been during Acts of Fire, I didn't know it. I had just started the opening, and I'm several minutes into it, and I'm doing it, and there's this flurry of activity behind the cameras, and it's Mike and it's John. And I'm thinking, there's really something going on here, but I'll just keep talking until they tell me to be quiet. And then finally, Mike said, you can stop talking now. I was like, okay, we lost the signal. So they're all the flurry of activity to bring the signal back. And I'm asking, do I have to do that again? They're like, yes, you have to do it again. I think I learned how to use a handheld mic much better, courtesy of John Kalitz, who told me that when I talk, I move it away from me sometimes because I'm Italian and my hands move. So periodically that would happen. But I think I said it in the beginning, is our ability to do this and the people that actually we connected with and all these wonderful, holy people from around the diocese. And some of them are here and some of them are not. So Mike, just, Father Nevitt wants to know why he wasn't invited tonight, so you'll have to address that at some point.
I'm fully comfortable with that decision.
Okay, you'll have to take that on. But it really gave an opportunity to meet new people across the diocese that are doing amazing work. Like Carrie's here in this room, and Fathers Goyette and Sinatra, watching their work on Facebook, and Star and Jose. I mean, we really had just a beautiful experience doing this. And we learned quite a few things, too, like that Father John Picnic, when we were broadcasting from Holy Family, couldn't do Zoom meetings or watch Netflix because he killed the signal. But even the other things, there are other parishes that have done some really innovative type of things. Catholic Community of the Holy Spirit was doing praise and worship concerts live streamed. You look at what where Father Holy Cross, where Father Matthew Weber is. He's running little workshops, online on finances, on putting your things in order should you need to. And I've often said in the work that I do for the diocese is that the Catholic Church should be a place of human flourishing. I know we focus very much on the spiritual, and we should, but there's other things that people need. So I think a lot of the people in this room and the other people that joined us over this period of time really sort of stepped into this gap to sort of wrap our arms around the faithful as best we could, though digitally. So I think there's a lot in there that we've learned. And it really has been fun. It has been fun while we learned.
I didn't enjoy this at all. I don't know what you're talking about. This has been a nightmare. No, actually, it has been a wonderful experience. One that I hope we can stop doing soon. The truth of the matter is we know that we probably won't. Bishop's column this week, and I've talked about it to the media a couple of times, is we know that when masses finally do resume, we know it's going to be very different. We know it's going to be slower. We know that there will be restrictions in terms of how many people can be at a church at any given time, and there'll be a lot of things. And a lot of that will depend on what we hear from the health officials. So because of that, we know that John and I will probably still be working Sundays for quite a while. And we know that Donna and John and I are going to have to come up with some more content, and it's just a resource for the people. We're not doing this because we're the end all or the be all. We do this because we wanted to make sure that we're able to help the faithful feel fed. I mean, Donna was in charge of the convocation of Catholic leaders last year, and the entire point of that event was missionary discipleship. Now, John and I are not what we would call, well, John is actually. I shouldn't put him as, I'm not. My spirituality is in the form of good works. I don't claim to have anything other than that. I just try to be a good person, and I know I can build things and make things happen and push people in the right direction. That's my way of giving back to the Catholic Church. But you'll never hear me preach on, well, anything, come to think of it.
Thank goodness.
I'll vent a lot, but preach, never.
Secretly, you have the best homilies in the diocese.
Oh, I do. Secretly, I do. They involve curse words. No, just kidding. But so the reason I went down that path is that we know we're going to have to continue to do some online programming. We've already talked about it a little bit. It'll probably be midday as opposed to in the evenings. It'll probably be a mix of recorded and live, possibly more recorded than live. We'll do, like when we do recorded stuff now, we'll do them as premieres. So, when we do it as a premiere, I'm always on it so I can answer questions, encourage people to interact with what they're seeing. You saw last night's cooking show. I think I've created a monster. So that cooking show may come back in some other form. We actually have other cooking shows in mind. If you have a suggestion for something that you'd like to see in the future, that email address is donna.ottaviano@camdendiocese.org.
And we would like the ideas.
So please let her know, and then John and I will figure out how to make it happen. But yeah, be in touch with us. So I kind of want to go around the room one more time, and I'm going in reverse this time because I don't want to make Star and Jose have to wait till the end. So, kind of going forward, is there anything you have done or wanted to do that you haven't, or have ideas for how to kind of broaden what you've been doing over the last couple of months? Yep. You thought it was going to be easy starting with you guys, didn't you?
No, I think there's always something that we say in our young adult ministry, and we say all the time, is that we can always be better. We're never like we've never hit the top, or I always challenge young adults. Let's be better. Let's be better. So I think when Star and I have had conversations about things that we could do and content, it's always we have to make this better. So personally, for office outtakes, it's been either myself or me and Star, and I've had conversations with some other talking Catholic host. Sorry, Mike.
What?
Yeah, no. So it's more of a. I'd rather say sorry than ask for permission. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna. I was reaching out to some of your hosts, and I'm gonna have some of them on and do things like that through Zoom, and kind of broaden this office outtake. Because honestly, anybody who knows anybody in a diocesan role, kind of the office doesn't literally mean the desk. We have to travel. So if we're gonna do office outtakes, I'm gonna reach out to everybody. So that's been some of the stuff that I've been kind of coming up with in my aged mind about how we can.
Addled or aged? I'm sorry, what was that?
What was that? Aged.
Aged, okay.
Thank you. About just kind of ways to make content better and involve some other people. But really, it's about putting stuff out that, sitting there looking at it and thinking about it and say, is this really worth it? Is this really worth putting out? Are people gonna, cling to this, and is it gonna touch somebody in a certain type of way where they're gonna want to come back and watch again? So that's really the thought process, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything to add to that, Star?
I just think just to try and create stuff that is relatable, honestly, and I appreciate you having me as the host of Keeping It Catholic. I know I haven't done a fantastic job sometimes because
Whoa!
No. I feel like I could do better, but
yeah, of course, we can all do that.
Yeah, but I want to continue that, and I want to keep getting. I feel like that has gotten me out of my shell of being very shy and reserved. So I think it's helped me open up more about my faith and be proud about my faith. And I want to be an example of that for other young adults and young people, in our community. So I want to continue doing that.
Cool.
For you guys. So.
Fathers, any thoughts of things you haven't done that you'd like to, or things you did do that maybe could have been done differently?
Well, you have to be aware of your surroundings, because during one live episode, Batman, Father Sinatra's dog, came running into the room and literally headbutted his computer when it flying. But luckily, he grabbed everything before it hit the floor and disconnected. So
Ooh, well done.
Lightning quick reflexes. Batman hit the cord. The Chromebook went flying. I don't know how I caught it.
How about you, Father Sinatra? Aside from dog management.
Well, a couple things first. I want to thank the two of you.
Oh, sure.
Because whether you realize it or not, you have set the standard for us to follow.
Yeah.
The most influential thing in my live streaming was the picture that you posted of what it took to run the things. Because I copied every single thing down and I went on Amazon and I purchased it. I ran it by John. I said, John, this is what I'm thinking. Is this what you're using? And he's like, yes, Father. So I didn't spend 45 grand. I only spent about 5. And I told my mother that my years of hoarding sound equipment have finally paid off. Because that's how I'm able to sync the video and the sound. And John, in a particular way, when I gave him a call when I had a question, said, Father, let me take a quick shower, stopped what he was doing, stopped spending time with his family, drove from Washington Township to Vineland, and was there for my 5 o'clock Mass to show me how things worked.
Wow.
And that's the heart of a true servant. And I really appreciate it. And you guys have been super supportive of everything and super generous. The thing that I think that we need to do more of, and Donna, it kind of speaks to what you did at the convocation for lay leaders. The mantra of that week was share your story. Share the story. And one of the things that I started on Thursday nights was Portraits of Faith, where I actually interview people. And this is something I've been dying to do since we left. But because of busy schedule and whatever, I couldn't do it. Like interviewing parishioners, interviewing people that I know, and asking them their faith story, and just to share with other people, because we're not all that different. We're very much the same. And if we're going to thank God for the pandemic, we thank him for that, because we wouldn't be able to do half the stuff that we're doing now if it wasn't because of that.
Right. Yeah.
And now we're sharing people's stories of faith. And like, you talk to someone, and like Father Al, like people see Father Al. I can't tell you how many people say, well, I never knew that about him. Or, one of our other parishioners, or my friend Floss, or my sister or my brother-in-law. It's always good to rope in family. They can't say no very easily, right? But to like stories behind that. I interviewed my deacon and his wife, and that was like, I can't tell you how much positive feedback I got about that. The importance of sharing our story of faith, and I think that's something that we need to do. And that ties into that relatability, that this human condition, regardless of your state of life, whether you're, lay or religious or a cleric or whatever, that we all, our God loves us and has called us in these myriad of ways, but they're not all that dissimilar. And I think that's some of the things that we need to do more. I'm just really glad that I'm teamed up with Father Goyette, because he makes me look good. I just am a good interviewer. He's got the faith. So he's got a holiness to him and an intellectualism to him that I don't have. I'm pretty relatable. I can tell a good joke. I've got some tricks up my sleeve, but he's the one. And it helps that we're classmates. And we made a pact kind of early on that our job was to try and make sure that neither of us go to hell. So that's that's kind of like why we're trying to do the things that we're trying to do. So I don't know if you want to speak to that.
If John throws the wide shot on, you'll see him actually moving around the room right now because we're running out of juice on one of the cameras.
Oh,
so I promise we will be wrapping up soon. I do have one thing. If you haven't been to Father Sinatra's Facebook page and he feels like friending you, he has many shows on his own personal Facebook page. Is Monday the drinking show? I like to refer to it as the
with
drinking
Corona.
show. Okay.
Yes, that's what helps keep me sane. Because one of the other things too, and I think the priests will say this to a man, we miss the people. I always knew that I needed my parish. I never knew I needed them this much. So as much as you miss us, trust me, we miss you. And I get emotional, but I really can't wait for the time that we're back together again. Yeah. But we have to do the smart and prudent thing, and we're biding our time. And we build up and prepare, because guess what? That first Mass back, even though it might be a little bit odd and different, it's going to be absolutely incredibly awesome. Yeah. So.
Okay. Carrie, what about you? Things that you'd like to have done differently, or things you'd like to do that you haven't done yet?
Yes, well, things that I would have done differently was Easter Sunday Mass. I was the live streamer, like I mentioned. I'm behind the camera at my parish, and I would have plugged in the sound because I messed it up. It's such a rookie move. It's the most basic thing, plugging in the aux cord into my little converter in my iPhone, and boom. And like all these people are writing in no sound, and I'm like, why not? And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, the sound wasn't plugged in. So that was something I would have done differently. As far as moving forward, I'll let the Holy Spirit guide. He always leads me in the right way. I get these random ideas or these random thoughts at random times on what to do or how to do it. And here I am kind of, jotting notes down in my phone and the next day executing it. So I always just let the Holy Spirit guide, and he hasn't failed me yet. So we'll just keep going with that. And I just want to say a big shout out to my husband. If you're watching, I saw you were, as long as you didn't click out at any time. This is, for you, honey. Thank you so much for all your support. And something I would like to also do is have him on a show. Everyone said it came from Father Josh Nevitt. We should interview Phil. And so I think maybe sometime soon we'll have Phil on a show. So that's my next steps.
Phil, if you want me to make sure she never has a show again, just you know how to get
he
hold
would love
me.
a show. He would love his own show, actually.
Actually, Phil, how about me and you do a show? I'm told that would go really well. No, that's true. That's and that's a great idea. And by the way, you don't have to wait for the Holy Spirit. You can wait for Donna and I, because you get roped into things more than anybody else.
The Holy Spirit usually works really strong through you guys. So
won't wait long.
So, Greg, how about you? What can we expect from you? Things you would have liked to have done differently, or things you haven't done yet that you'd like to try?
Yeah, for the things that we would have liked to do differently, I think, like we're saying, there's been some more time since we started to kind of tweak as we're going. So I think at first, just with the virtual things, just going over how to put your headphones in, going over that you need like 2 devices to record, that you can't have the background track going in the background. So we've definitely worked out some of the technology along the way. But going forward right now, tomorrow's our last day for our seniors, so it's really just all about our seniors. We're prepping our baccalaureate mass, we're prepping our graduation. Kate Biggs put together a whole team, and she's really done a lot of legwork to really make this a beautiful and wonderful couple of days ahead for them. Some beautiful letters went out to our seniors today. So, I think the administration and the faculty have been really, really intentional about honoring our seniors through this challenge with all the things that they've been, missing these past couple weeks. So that's what I'm excited about this week, putting together something for our seniors and making sure that they're represented in the ceremonies. And that's kind of our thing lately, is our virtual gig. So we'll see what we can do for them.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Thank you.
So Donna, I think we're gonna finish.
Mike.
I know. I think we're gonna finish with me, you, and John. This has been an experience. It's been lovely. I'm curious, before we always do these things. We actually haven't had any questions from. I've been not really monitoring. Did we have any questions come in that people want to know, or did you have any questions about stuff that I didn't touch on, realizing that we're 15 minutes over our hour?
Well, there's comments. There's not a lot of questions.
There's a lot of Phil talk on there, I'll tell you that.
There's a lot of Phil talk, I will say. So there's some Phil commentary. There's a Father Sinatra. Father Joe Wallace said that Bishop Guilfoyle would not appreciate your beard.
So he banned beards for priests, by the way.
Oh, really?
You weren't allowed to have that back in the day.
But there's really, and there's some comments around this entire series that people were grateful for and kind of like what comes next. So that will be part of what it is that we're going to work on is what comes next. Your feedback. I mean, I know Mike, rattled off my email address, but please email me, send messages into us and let us know what you'd like to see. And I think there's something really powerful that actually occurred over the 7 weeks. And Father Sinatra mentioned it, is really, without the pandemic, would not have figured out how to do these things. Mm-hmm. We would not have. And the connections that were created, and I will talk about the power of story. And this really came up in a lot of the episodes, a lot of the retreat nights that we did. And if you pay attention in the space of church, it's about story. If you look in the secular world, it's about story. It's your story. So we have to tell the story of Jesus, the kerygma, his birth, his life, his death, his resurrection. But we have to tell his story within, our story within his. We have to tell that story. And through all of these 7 weeks, everyone that participated told their story in some way, shape, or form. Like Star and Jose did on Young Church. Carrie and her guest, shout out to Father Nevitt, right? And the other guests that Carrie had when she was doing Faith and Family Night. There really was beautiful stories being told. We have to get good at that. And the convocation was intended to light a spark and light up Camden Diocese. And that's going to be part of how we do it. So this has been an amazing experience. John Kalitz has made more fun of me, and I obviously have this thing I do with my hair, and I flip it. So John does it all the time. John's had to teach me how to use a handheld mic. I never really did live anything before. I like to record things and put them up so they're perfect. Couldn't really do that this way, so. And I'll give a shout out to my mom who's watching. Hi, Mama, who's watching, who has watched every episode from Northeast Philly. And so this has just been great, and we're gonna keep going. It might change up a bit, but we're gonna keep going, and we're gonna go with you.
Yeah. So John is going to roll a couple of, or quite a few thank yous to all the pastors who let us use their facilities, to all the hosts who came on. We had a ton of hosts that nobody got paid for this gig. Well, John and I got paid for this gig, but that's because it's part of our job. Everybody else, however, did it for free, and we're really appreciative of that, and thank you very much for all the time you gave us. Two people who need to be thanked on my end is certainly my wife and son, Jennifer and Jack, who have done without me for quite a bit. The communications office went from being very busy to, are you kidding me how busy we are? So I've spent most days and nights out of the house, most weekends out of the house. I think I've had one solid day off in the last 2 months. So thank you for putting up for that. We also have to thank, and Jack, jeez, if I call him my son one more time, I'm going to murder somebody. John, would you like to thank your wife and child, or are they just happy to get you out of the house? Children, rather.
So Donna was talking not too long ago with the hair flip and how I did nothing but make fun of her. Yeah, that doesn't end when I leave work. That continues the whole time. So I think my wife and kids secretly waited for that time that they hit the clock when they knew I was leaving, because I'm hard to deal with.
As someone who deals with you when they're not dealing with you, he's hard to deal with. A lot of energy, a lot of personality in John. We also have someone we'd really like to thank, and that is Donna's chauffeur. So, Joe, could you come over here? You're not going to get anything. I'm not going to put a stupid hat on you. We just want you to, but we've had this thing for a while. Hashtag let Joe speak. So, Joe.
Hashtag let him speak.
Go, Joe, go. There we go.
My spirit animals.
Oh, boy.
You don't know how bad I just want to cut the broadcast right now. Let's hope so.
So, Joe, in addition to carting his wife around all over the place.
7 weeks.
And a lot of Chick-fil-A, I'm told. He's been here for everything. So, you're actually the only, I guess we're going to interview you as an audience member. What do you think? What did you think about the last 7 weeks?
I thought it was beautiful.
Did you?
I thought the folks, everybody involved, does a great job.
And look at that, just like his wife. Microphone too far from the top.
So everything's been great. I thoroughly enjoy it. I think I photobombed Jose over there. At one
You
moment.
haven't. I thought you were sleeping over there at one point.
Well, it was the dog.
that was Molly.
Oh man, Donna's going to get me out of the car saying, "Were you sleeping during all that?" No, I wasn't.
dog.
It was the dog snoring. But I'm thrilled to be here. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Never expected Donna to be doing the work that she does, and I'm privileged to be able to give her a lift and know that she gets home safely at night and that sort of thing. So that's about it.
You're a good man, Joe. Thank you very much. We're
Thank you.
glad you finally had the opportunity to
finally
speak. I get out of my seat. All right, so the only other two people we'd like to thank is Bishop Dennis Sullivan and Father Robert Hughes, the Vicar General for the diocese.
My favorite homilist.
His favorite homilist. He's all right. Yeah, I'm gonna. That
See
probably
ya.
wasn't
Goodbye,
smart.
Mike.
I know. I really because
except
when
for the
when things happened, when everything shut down, I told everybody on my staff. I said, I'm going to say yes to every stupid idea that comes our way. We might tweak it a little bit, but I'm going to say yes to everything. I'm not going to say no to any dumb idea that comes our way because, quite frankly, we weren't in a position to say no to anything. I really wanted to create content. So if you came up with something, I was going to see if I could make it happen. And God bless Bishop Sullivan and Father Hughes for allowing me to do that. They didn't need to, but they were good enough to put trust in me and Donna and John to actually create some content that people might like. And by and large, you did. So thank you to them. Thank you to those of you who watched. John wrote all the thank yous into the system. Nobody spell checked him. So if there are any misspellings or we forgot anybody, please know that we didn't mean to misspell it. We were sorry, but thank you very much for all of your help. And if we forgot you in the list, just know that in our hearts, we really appreciate everything you helped with. Other people on my staff to thank are Mary McCusker, certainly John, Maria D'Antonio, the entire Catholic Star Herald staff for pitching in and doing their job all the time. And quite frankly, none of this would have been possible without Donna Ottaviano Britt. Quite frankly, John and I may get a lot of the credit for putting this stuff on, but it would be a blank screen without Donna. So Donna, thank you very much for all the hard work you've done.
Thank you.
And thank you for always saying yes to all the dumb ideas I throw your way. So thank you for that as well.
And thank you, Mike, because you always say yes, too.
We're all about yeses around here.
Yeah.
So
It's called Fiat, Mike. Fiat.
Fiat?
Fiat.
It's a terrible car.
I'll
I don't know what
explain
you're
it to
talking
you
about. But anyway, thank you all for joining us tonight. We're going to wrap it up right now. But we will let you know when we have new programming coming out, probably sometime in June. But in the meantime, stay safe, wash your hands. Don't fight the coronavirus any more than you have to. Be essential. We're essential. We're out a lot, but I wish I was home more often so I wouldn't risk getting people ill. And we can't wait to see you. We genuinely cannot wait to see you in churches. So have a great rest of your night. Thank you very much for joining us. For those who are watching the recorded, thanks for checking it out. And have a great night, everybody. And thank you all for coming out.
Actually, I've always wanted to see this. Yeah, it's going to start rolling.